George H.W. Bush did many great things throughout his lifetime. He served in the military, he was head of the CIA, and he's one of our presidents. He battled vascular Parkinsonism throughout his life and was unable to walk on his own. However, he continued to live life. He fought his fair share of battles, but he continued to fight the internal battle until it took his last breath. Many of you may have not been able to go to any part of Bush's funeral or watched it on TV due to it happening right before finals. Bush was seen as one of our great presidents who accomplished much during his presidency, and the many ceremonies that we have for him are just a small way for us to say thanks. He also had a very unique ceremony. He even had a train painted just for him, and not many presidents get to have such an extravagant funeral. As everyone knows, George Bush Sr. passed away recently and had multiple services at multiple locations like the Capitol of the U.S., Houston, and College Station. I have read upon articles covering his funeral services and I've done my research. First, I will discuss his death and the ceremonies that happened at the Capitol of the U.S. Second, I will discuss the services that happened in Houston. And finally, I will discuss the trip from Houston to Texas A&M University and the services that happened there. As everyone knows, George Bush Sr. passed away recently and had many memorial services that happened at multiple locations like the U.S. Capitol, Houston, and College Station. George H.W. Bush died at age 94 on Friday, November 30th, due to vascular Parkinsonism. He continued to live life, even though he was confined to scooters and wheelchairs. The first part of his services happened at the Capitol of the U.S. According to Parkinson's Foundation, he suffered many years with vascular Parkinsonism. Vascular Parkinsonism is caused by problems with vessels in the brain regions that control movement. Many people with this often have trouble walking and maintaining balance. Despite the fact that he had trouble walking and was confined to a wheelchair, he still lived his life and enjoyed the time that he had left. According to Parkinson's Foundation, he went skydiving to celebrate his 90th birthday. And according to CNN, he was seen in public in a wheelchair in November 2014 when his son published a biography entitled 41, A Portrait of My Father. The services at the Capitol. According to CNN, the first event that happened was the arrival ceremony, including the House and the Senate to the Capitol. George Bush arrives at the Capitol at 4:45 p.m. Monday, December 3rd, and he stayed there until Wednesday in the Rotunda. The public was allowed to visit from 7:30 p.m. on Monday to 8:45 a.m. on Wednesday, and friends and family visited him in the National Cathedral in D.C. at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Now that I've discussed the first part of Bush's funeral, I will discuss the second part, which happened in Houston, Texas. The second part of his funeral happened in Houston, Texas. This picture shows Bush leaving the Capitol and returning to Houston. Houston was George's home before the presidency. He was transported from the Capitol to Houston by plane. The services happened at St. Martin's Episcopal Church. This church is where his family worshiped for many years. This church was also where his wife's funeral was held earlier in the year. The president will lie there from 7:45 p.m. on Wednesday to 7 a.m. on Thursday. And there was a second service at the church at 11 a.m. on Thursday. Now that I've discussed the first and second part of the funeral services, which happened at the Capitol and in Houston, I will finally discuss the last portion of the funeral, which ended in College Station. To end the funeral services, George was taken by a train to Seastat to be buried at the George Bush Memorial Museum and Library, where his wife and daughter also lay. He was taken by train from Spring, Texas to Texas A&M University. This PDF image from CNN shows the train that transported Bush. The name of it is UP number 4141 George Bush Locomotive. This was reviewed in 2005 in a ceremony at Texas A&M University. The colors of the train represent the Air Force One that was during Bush's presidency. The train also symbolizes strength and pride. The train is named 4141 for Bush being the 41st president. The arrival in College Station. George Bush had the arrival ceremony at 4:45 p.m. on Thursday. There were multiple people waiting at the tracks on both sides of the tracks. He also had the TAMU's Corps lining up the roads leading to the library and museum, which is what this picture shows. The final ceremony was held at 5:15 p.m. at the library and museum. He was to be buried at the library and museum next to his daughter and his wife. So, to start off, I discussed what ended George's life and the funeral that happened at the Capitol. Second, I discussed the switch from the Capitol to Houston and why he had his funeral services in Houston. Finally, I discussed the locomotive that took George from Houston to College Station and the ceremonies that happened in College Station. As everyone knows, Bush Sr. passed away recently and had many services that happened at multiple locations, like the U.S. Capitol, Houston, and College Station. In conclusion, George H.W. Bush was revered by many as a great leader. He served in the military and as one of our great presidents. He continued to live life and push on despite being confined to motorized wheelchairs and scooters. He had several services in multiple locations, so many people got the chance to pay their respects and to gather to remember his name.